Welcome to the Wellness League podcast. This is the Try Me series. I am Ella.
And I'm Amanda from TriFit.
And I'm Emily.
Nice to know you all. Throughout this series, we'll be covering everything in the sport of triathlon, from starting your first race
right up to competing in sprint, Olympic distance, 70.3 and Ironman, giving you all the tips and tricks from our experience in the sport.
So, today in episode 8, we are covering all things bike maintenance. So, let's dive into it.
Thank you for our lovely Tim for shooting our video.
Tim is a bike mechanic, so he's actually done this episode because he knows a lot more than we do about bike maintenance.
I'll insert it here.
We know that taking your bike to a mechanic is a good way to look after it, but what are some things you can do at home to make sure your bike is well looked after?
Well, first of all, Amanda's lucky because I am a mechanic. So I do all the work on our bikes, all 200 of them. And this is Amanda's road bike, and I've just recently actually given it a bit of a clean up. But basic maintenance, very simple. Couple of things. First of all, before every ride, check your air, check the pressure in your tyres. So before every ride, I pump our tyres up. So Amanda has 28 mil, and I run these at about 70 psi. So if she doesn't ride for a couple of days, they'll be down to 60 or even 50 psi. So always keep pressure in them because a flat tyre will puncture. So that's the first thing. Number 2, really simple, clean it. Get a rag. You don't need anything fancy. You can actually put a bit of dishwashing liquid in a bucket of hot water and a sponge and just wipe it over. Just get all the gunk and everything off it. And when you do that, particularly do underneath, because all the stuff sprays up here. So you can actually put the bike upside down if need be and get your rag and just clean it. You can also get a rag, that same rag, maybe a dirty one, and just grip the chain and just pedal backwards and wipe all the excess dirt and muck and everything off the chain. Keep that clean also. Very basic things that you can do. The last thing that is really easy to do maintenance-wise is changing a tube. And maybe we'll put a link to a video on doing that. A lot of people struggle getting the wheels out of the bike. So this particular bike, it's got through axles and it has a lever on it. But some modern bikes only have an Allen key here, so you have to carry an Allen key. But you just unscrew that, pull it out, and the wheel comes out. And then if you don't know how to change a tyre or a tube, learn it, because the day will come, I promise you, where you'll get a puncture and you'll be stuck on the road. It's not a matter of just being able to change it, you've got to have the spares. So in this here is a spare tube and some tyre levers. And on this side here is the pump. So you can either use a pump, some people use CO2, but you must carry that with you. So there's some real basics for you.
Big news time. We have a big brand new sponsor for the Wellness League podcast. So, can you guess who it is?
Hi, I'm Lana from Live and Breathe Active, or LAB, a small family-run business run by a group of passionate people that, well, we live and breathe this shit. Whether it's run, swim, cycle, or try, we make gear to get you through those tough training sessions. We help you get up before sunrise, and we will still be there with you well after sunset. You will see us before you hear us, with bespoke prints designed by artists just for you. We are driven by our values and are focused on performance and community. And we are super proud to be partnering with the Wellness League podcast in the Try series. Find out more or shop online at liveandbreatheactive.com. We can't wait to have you as part of the crew.
How good is that, hey? Discount codes and the link will be in the bio. But you know what? Let's go back to the pod.
Okay, so this is what I carry with me. And this is all wrapped together with a rubber band. And actually I don't carry a saddlebag, I just bang in the jersey pocket. So here I have, and this is on the road, CO2. A 6mm Allen key, and I'll explain that to you, and a spare tube. So because I've got a modern bike with a through axle, The only way to get it off is with this Allen key. So if you don't carry that with you, and you get a puncture out on the road, you're in all sorts of strife. So I'm changing a tube, it's my spare tube. So I unravel it, release it, and what I do is just with my mouth put a little bit of volume in the tube. See how it's now round? It's holding a bit of form, and I close it off. So I've checked my tyre, there's nothing in it. Now another interesting thing you've got to remember is tyres are directional, which means they rotate a certain way, and it's the way the tread is. And I know what it is, but most tyres, and this is a Maxxis tyre, will have a direction on the sidewall. I'll find that for you. See there? See that arrow? That says rotation, which means it wants to roll that way. So when you think about that, there's your wheel. Your cassette is always on the right-hand side. Cassette's always here. And the tyre needs to go on knowing that the wheel's going to rotate this way. Another little trick of the trade. Find your valve hole, which is here. And what I always do is I line up the label with the valve hole. And the reason I do that, if you find something in your tyre, you can work your way back from the label and see where it is so you can pull it out. Okay, so first things first, one side of the tyre on. Really easy thing to do. Okay. So this side's open and this side's on. Okay, you can see I just did that with my fingers. I've already put a little bit of volume in my tube. Find the valve hole, push it through. Okay, and then what I do, if you watch, so I just push the tube in the tyre. See that? And then what I do, and it's a two-hand action, is I start putting the second half of the tyre on. So I'm holding it here, and I'm pushing it on. Once I get to this point, I can let go of that. And what I'm going to do is push the tube up with this hand, and push it on the rim with this hand. So up, pull on. Up, pull on. Okay? Now when you get around towards the end and it gets a bit tight, a lot of people can't do this last little bit. And the reason for that is, the whole tyre is gripping around the rim. So if you go the opposite to what's left to go on, run your thumbs down and just separate it, and you'll see that'll just go click on just with my fingers. As simple as that. The next thing you need to do then is push the valve up, because often the tube can get stuck around the valve between the rim and the tyre itself. So push it up and make sure that it's not in the way. And then what you can do if you want to is go around and make sure that none of the tube is stuck between the rim and the tyre. And all I'm doing is I'm pushing it to the side and I'm inspecting. You can't see any tube there. See that? Just work your way around, whole way around. If it is there, you then need to kind of manoeuvre it and get the tube inside the tyre itself. Okay? And at that point, we can pump it up. If I was on the road, obviously I'd use my CO2, and I might do a video on how to use a CO2 at some point. But because I've got a puncture at home, I'm going to use my track pump. If you don't have one of these, get one. They're so much easier to use. It has a gauge. Okay, so I run these at about 80 psi. And this is the part that goes on the valve. Now this is what's called a smart head. So whether you have a car valve or a Schrader or your high pressure valve, Presta valve, this will work automatically with both. And I'll show you how it goes on. Okay, so you got to make sure that you release it, unscrew it. So I'm going to push down with my palm here. Otherwise if I push that up, it wants to lift up. So here, valve on. Nice and tight, and then this here, the thumb lock, is what locks the pump onto the valve. It's engaged. Okay, and just pump. Now what I like to do is give it a few pumps
Great. Thanks, Tim.
Learn how to change a tyre.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know how to, go and look at Tim's YouTube because he has posted a lot of videos on bike maintenance and everything you need to know.
I actually went to a bike shop, so before I met Tim, same bike shop, before he worked there, and they actually ran a session for people to learn how to change a bike tyre.
That's really
Which was
cool.
really good. So see if there's something like that where you are.
I feel like your front one's easy to change,
Yeah.
but when you get involved with your bike chain, it looks very complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the harder one.
So if you need to know anything about your bike equipment, forward back to the episode we did all about that. We did an episode on cycling. Go and have a suss. Anything else?
Honestly, it's just confidence. Like, you gotta either practice it, like I've practiced before a race, or when you're out there, you'll learn.
Or you get a partner or a husband who knows what to do. Well, thank you for listening. This podcast will be out on Spotify and YouTube as a video, also on Apple Podcasts, but please go and watch it because that will make more sense. In the meantime, go and follow us on the socials. It's at the Wellness League Pod pretty much everywhere, and at discovering_ET for me. Amanda, you are?
I'm at trifit.tim.amanda on Instagram and Trifit with Tim and Amanda on YouTube.
And then
Just on Instagram, Emily Barrett 101.
I will tag all our Stravas in the show notes so you can laugh at my training. And we'll see you next Friday. Bye.
Bye.
Laugh at my training.